Just watch yourselves.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I think this is the biggest in-person turnout we've had in a long time.
It's summertime.
We haven't had that. Well, okay, so it is 4:02. This is the July meeting of the Town of Officers Economic Development Committee meeting. I thought, given that we have some new faces here, we could just go around, do a quick round of introductions, and then carry on with approval of minutes and whatnot. So I'm Megan Bailey. I'm the co-chair of the Economic Development Committee. Carrie Sands, my co-chair, not able to make it today, so just me. I live here in Northeast Harbor, and in my day-to-day life, I am a public sector economist.
Works for the state.
Yeah.
It lives right here in Northeast.
Thank
Harbor. A brilliant young woman. Aren't we lucky to have her? Kathy Miller, and I work with Mountains Are 365. So happy you're here. And you too.
I'm Jamie Blaine. I used to be the secretary, so I'm so glad. I live in Northeast Harbor.
Jen McGee, I live in Northeast Harbor, across from the Astrodome. So we're looking forward to the traffic stuff. It's totally insane, but I'm excited to check it out. And I own Swallowfield, the art and gift shop in town.
I'm Nikki Moser. I live here in Northeast Harbor. I work part-time at Swallowfield. I work part-time at the Bar Harbor Historical Society as the experience manager, and I do custom fabrication out of the studio on Trace there.
Nancy Ho, I live in Northeast Harbor, connected to the promotion.
Someone.
Donald Graves, summer here in Northeast Harbor. Born in Long Harbor. Good to be here.
I'm Georgianne Sneed. I'm the director at the concert chamber in the county. Martha Dudman, Northeast Harbor, Board of Selectmen. Author.
I'm Steve Madeira. I'm also a resident of Northeast Harbor and also retired.
Andersville, resident of Soamesville, full-time, and retired from banking in Boston, participate on the board with the Nursing Association, and recently.
Rick Wheeler, formerly of Timesville, now in Bernard. And I guess I'm a departing member.
April Wilson, part-time Sausalito, California, part-time Northeast Harbor, and also fully office school.
We're gonna miss you both. We're gonna miss you. Okay, so before we get into more membership update things, we can review and approve the wonderful minutes that Kathy prepared from the last meeting. I wasn't at the meeting. I know that it was somewhat chaotic with a Zoom hack and all of that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
We also found it, but it's funny.
Carrie was very stressed about it.
Yeah.
But from what I can tell, she handled it very well. And we're able to still handle the minutes even if you
Yeah,
weren't able to.
I wasn't able to attend. I did look at the recording.
Yeah.
But I had the caveat and the warning in advance. Hope you will see everything.
Yeah.
I know, they had fixed it by the time I got it.
So,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Maine and April 9th minutes.
Chris,
Second.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I said, Rick and April are stepping off of the committee. I did notice, I was checking the town website, that you guys are actually listed as continuing. Your appointments still continue for another year, so I'm happy to email Claire and copy you both as sort of confirming your departure from the committee, and she can update the website if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Make sure to copy you. This was gonna be Derlin's last meeting, but he's not here, so I'm sad, sad about that. So
It's my last meeting, so I'm sorry. I am talk to Claire. I'm sorry. I'm let you know. You can see.
Okay.
I've been here very happy.
Yeah. Beginning.
Okay.
Right.
It's a large place.
Nothing like five.
So you've already spoken to
I
Claire?
did.
Okay. Is this your last meeting?
Yes.
Oh my
that-
God.
That's what I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Wasn't clear, but yes,
Okay.
let's say that.
Okay. And I did notice that also, Matt, Jen, and Stephanie, who's not here, were set to sort of, your term was expiring and it looks like most of them just auto.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's good for you. You're stepping off and then I'll reach out to Matt and Jen and see what their intentions are. Okay, so with Anne, you have not submitted your paperwork yet, but you're hoping and intending to do that. Okay.
We're excited. It's great.
Okay, so now I think Nancy's stepping off. That means we have, I think, 3 vacant seats, and I know Jamie is somewhat itching to also step off the committee, which will be another big loss. But we, so if anyone has names or ideas, we've had some really great folks like Steve and Anne and Nikki interested in sort of coming on board recently. If folks have any ideas on folks.
Young people.
Yeah, and also we have very heavy Northeast Harbor.
Yeah.
Sort of presence, so any, particularly for any of the year round or even summer folks who don't live right here in town, would be
Under
helpful.
pretty Marshall for, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, and I'll check with Stephanie because I know she's. And just a process question with Derlin not here, maybe you know Martha. So the new town manager who will be coming on sometime this fall or later this summer, hopefully. Will they automatically be appointed as an ex officio member of the committee?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think we might have to vote on it, but yeah.
Okay, so there's nothing we have to do to make
No,
sure.
no, that happens.
Okay,
For mine, they,
yes.
sort the cracks, yeah.
So, it is the July meeting, which means we are electing officers. I spoke with Carrie. If no, please, if anyone else wants to be chair, please speak now. We would be more than happy to relinquish our co-chairship. We are, yeah. We agree we'll do it for another year. I think work has gotten a little, there's been some work changes for both of us over the last year. So we can commit to our co-chairship for 1 more year. But for, maybe
So move.
thinking of that. Okay. Yeah, all in favor, I guess we'll just vote on that then.
Aye.
Okay. We'll do that.
Thank you very much.
And if anyone else, please be thinking over the course of the next year. Do that. And Kathy has very graciously agreed to consider keeping on a secretary unless there's anyone else chomping at the bit.
Yes, also happy to relinquish that.
Hearing none,
I move.
I second.
Thank you, Kathy.
I know you know.
Okay. We're making good time, which is great because I want to save some time at the end. So towards the end for sort of our more robust discussion. So we just got a few quick, maybe not so quick updates on sort of our major topics. Skating rink.
Okay, well, since our last meeting, I think at our last meeting, I reported that the cost had doubled. the
Yeah.
cost. So that's still true. We got through the annual meeting, but not without controversy. There are some people in town who opposed to this and
Opposed to the rink now that it's had a higher cost.
yes. No, not the cost because they're not paying anything, but just the
Just the
idea
idea.
of the noise is an issue, down there in February.
All of the people.
There might be some.
This is, but anyhow, so we're pushing ahead. We have since that meeting gotten pledges of $150,000. So we're getting close to our 1.1 million. My house is hosting a big fundraiser, which you can all come to if you want to have it on Sunday, 6 at 6. And so we're confident we'll raise the money pretty quickly. This has been, I don't want to jinx this, but this has been relative to other people raising lots of money around here. This has been a fairly easy sale so far. So, but we have one more hurdle, which we hadn't anticipated, which is that we need approval from the planning board, which meets here at 6. And I'm assuming it is just routine, but one of the people who has spoken out at every possible public opportunity against the rink is on the planning board. So just to be sure, yesterday we requested people, also people that users of the rink to write letters. We have to date 49 we received in less than 24 hours. And Nancy has kindly, and a couple of other people, Chris Moore, are going to be at the meeting today. There shouldn't be any issue. Martha probably knows better than I do, because planning board does not make policy, but I just don't want them to make trouble. So we're prepared for that. And Greg Johnson is going to be presenting for it. And it's really, the issue is really the tennis court, but the rink has gotten most of the flack.
I think it's really good that you have some people coming to speak out in support of it. To my knowledge, there's only the one person on the planning board that's so opposed to this. And I've heard from him since town meeting again about the cost, which isn't a cost to the town. And the simple answer is the town voted for it.
Yeah.
The town voted for those improvements to the tennis courts. And there's no money being paid by the town to do the improvements to make it a skating rink. So
That's all private.
that's all
Yeah.
you need to say, really. And I would, you came out, when you spoke to the select board, there's some wonderful numbers about the usage and all that. I would have that at the ready, because that's very impressive.
Well, letters of support were also
Yeah.
incredibly impressive.
Good, good.
Talking about getting families together, people of all ages together, building a real sense of community.
Yeah,
Of meeting new people, even if you're a great hockey player, you didn't know the other person was there, and the distance that people were coming to play. So they're fabulous letters.
I think it's gonna, but I'm glad you got the support there.
And I
That was
think
nice.
as you, as Kathy said, it's not really about recreation, and it's about revitalizing this community in the off season. And that's what's happened. Although you wouldn't know it by the store closings, but
So,
that's our aim. Yes, Stuart.
so when I talked to Brian last month or two ago, he said it was still, he thought it would be open in, December or whatever with, oh, she's making a face, maybe it's changed.
I think January 1st is.
Okay, because I haven't spoken with him in a while, but we've been trying to coordinate like
Yeah.
things that brought people here. And so it is still this year. It's just a little.
Unless it gets slowed down somewhere along the line,
Gotcha.
Just thought, Jen, would it be appropriate for the Chamber of Commerce to do something at an opening event in January, just to?
Sure. Well, that's what we've been trying to, as part of the off-season discussion, try to figure out if we could have like Friday night skates or something where places are open and we advertise so people come to town. And so we just, so far, just trying to figure out like how, when it's all gonna come together is just, we're trying to keep up.
We will keep you.
Yes. Well, that's part of the conversation is to tell the places to eat. Well, the skating rink will be open and so you would have some customers. It's all kind of linked together and
a truck.
that'd be kind of a comprehensive.
This one of our best letters for this evening is from Adam Fraley up in Northeast. So
Oh, wonderful. I think that there was some input from the Astico as well, that when they are opened up.
They're
they will be open in the
that was
winter.
one of the questions they asked me on our first call.
oh, good.
Said they were gonna commit to being open Friday, Saturday nights this winter.
They are, yeah.
Who? Northeastern? The Astico.
Oh, the Astico.
Not
So they were interested in the skating rink and any other events.
They're interested for something for their guests to do, because
Is that all?
there isn't anything. right
That's at least for this winter. And I think the smaller restaurant will be open, which is great.
Yeah, that's great.
That's what they're saying right now.
Yeah.
And then are they certain they come to being
I mean, we're getting, I don't want to get off topic and that, but you know, they have issues with of the space.
Sure.
Which will come up, I guess, in our other discussion.
These are.
Yeah.
Continued. Well, that's helpful. I saw on Instagram, like an appeal for the letters. I just saw it this morning and I was like, okay, what's
We
going
just
on?
went up there this morning.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Just posted on how that goes this evening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or you can just stick around.
Or I could just.
Yeah.
That's true. Other exciting news, housing.
We had our groundbreaking for our 2 homes going up on Summit Road. And we have signed all the contracts and this week, Goodman's is supposed to be starting site work on that. So it's in process. The homes should be placed on site in October, but then take some time to finish them all off. And so our board is going to be working through the process of setting sale prices and affordability caps. So what criteria we might use, et cetera, so that we can make it as widely available, but also, you know, we will be subsidizing these houses quite a bit. You know, there's no way to build something for less than $500,000 even here. And we can't possibly charge that amount because that's not what folks can afford. So there is a significant subsidy on these, so.
And this is a duplex. This is 2 families.
It is 2 families, yes, and it is Greg Scott acted, and his firm that he has now retired from. They did the original design, and it's a fairly, you know, it's longish, narrow lot. We are allowed to have 2 houses on there. They are structured legally, it will be as a condominium. It is set as a duplex, so there is also, you know, requirements of how they're connected. But the houses are connected in such a way that it's the smallest wall possible to connect these 2. So there's the greatest amount of privacy for each of the 2 homes. They have a front door with a porch, and then they have a back door at a mudroom. And so it's those mudroom walls that are adjoining. So where it's going to be least disruptive for families to hear noise from somebody on the other side. So fingers crossed all will go well.
What is the timeline or sort of the hope for when folks might?
We will be putting out information later this summer and fall, and I believe what we will probably do for applications is getting word out as broadly as possible for what the criteria are, the process, the application, all of that information, and then setting a window of time to say, we will start accepting applications at this point. And then to be determined, but one of the options is a first come, first served basis. As opposed to a lottery, or as opposed to any other criteria. So it's not determined yet how the only 2 possible homeowners will be selected. So that's going to be a hard decision.
And do you have similar earnings criteria as Island Housing Trust?
Yes, actually,
Percentage of median income?
yes, exactly. So we had always set that up as our criteria following what they've been doing for years. We've also had recent conversations with them that are you still on the board? That you're reconsidering what those criteria are based on income levels, family sizes, all of that. And so we will be looking at that as well. So I'm literally in the process of preparing for our next board meeting, which is this coming Monday, all the income data we have for the area. So we have town staff, school staff. We have a report from another regional housing study on what kinds of incomes people get from a variety of jobs on the island or in the region. And then state and federal guidelines or income information, et cetera. So we have to just absorb and weigh all of that and make some hard choices. Yeah. No word yet on Heal Way. It is still in the Maine Supreme Court.
That was argued a long time ago.
April.
Yeah.
Yeah, early April. And even later in April, the law court set aside a week to deliberate on all of the cases they heard that same 3 days. But our attorney told us at the time, we're seeing decisions come out now for cases that were heard 5 or 6 months ago. So that would put this in around September, October kind of timeframe to get some answer. But they're also, our attorney and the town's attorney are also suggesting it could be sometime later this summer. So.
Okay, CDC finances. For new folks, I'm gonna explain a little bit on what the CDC is. People can correct me because
Means
I'm
something different
still.
in my word, so it is.
So the CDC is the Community Development Corporation. It's this like nonprofit extension of sorts of the committee. And it was set up to be able to receive funds for things like the skating rink and sort of other things like that. Because we as a committee don't really, not set up to do that. And so Carrie, co-chair, she serves as the treasurer of the CDC. So she sent me a couple sentences that she wants me to read. If anyone has questions, I will relay them to Carrie. I don't know the answer. So she says an update. The third-party request for $3,500 was approved via the select board and an annual town meeting. Excellent news. It means that the CDC is in a good position to be able to cover administrative expenses, legal, accounting, insurance, all of those little things. For 2027, this will allow the CDC to continue receiving contributions for the next phase of skating rink fundraising and anything else that we may want to embark on. And she says the CDC is grateful for the support. So,
And that's a 501c3.
yes.
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 You would expect, there is another entity that is a
There is.
501c4,
Right.
the EDC, the Economic Development Commit Corporation.
Corporation. Yeah.
Which was designed to help support businesses
Yeah.
in the town, sometimes by making loans. It could be a grant, but those would donations to that would not be tax deductible to the donor.
Yeah. And that right now is sort of the function and now I'm seeing.
Think I'm president. The CDC, you said
We just
that
won't
the
be on there.
CDC has enough money for a couple of years. I would suggest that you continue to ask every year.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, and as a member of the warrant committee, I will say that if people don't, they're like, well, why? You didn't need it last time.
Yeah.
Now it's almost easier.
And what's this all of a sudden?
Yeah. Comp plan, any updates there?
That's me again, isn't it?
Yes, I think it is.
Okay. The comp plan committee continues. Does everybody know about what the comp plan is, et cetera? Okay, so every town in Maine is required to have a comprehensive plan. It sort of lets the town, registered voters, town residents decide what they want their community to do for the next 5 to 10 years. Our last one was approved in 2009. So we're a little behind, and I think it took about 3 years to actually get it done. I think it was like 2006 to 2009 was the process. So we have a new process. The town has hired the Musson Group to manage this for us, and they are doing the lion's share of reviewing what's been in there and reworking it. They've also done this kind of work for other towns, and I think Rockport was one that they did fairly recently, and so they often hold that up as here's what we're doing with this town. So we look at the resources the town has, the assets, sort of inventory all of those with sort of a history and a timeline. But really the focus is on what do we want to do in the future? Here's where we've been. Here's the trends that we're seeing and where do we want to go? And so we've been doing it quietly, but even before this process got started, the Muskin Group did hold a number of, over the winter, village meetings and got a lot of input from people for those, in those discussions. And so that will help feed, some of the things we're doing. But we will be having more general meetings for the public to say, here's what we're doing, would you please weigh in? What do you think about this? What's most important? What do we want to see in our future? What are the critical areas that we have to work on? At our most recent meeting, which was just last week, we took a section of the time we had to look at the goals of the last comp plan from 2009. And actually the whole session we had was based on housing issues. And so we went back and looked at the goals of housing. It's like, well, nothing has changed. What have we accomplished since 2009 to meet those goals? Exactly. And the trend line is moving in the wrong direction completely. So we have a lot of work cut out for us in terms of how do we achieve those goals, because the goals are still quite valid. So I don't know that we need to make changes in the goals. We can tweak the language, but the goal is still increase the year-round population and have housing that's affordable to those people. So, I mean, it's fairly straightforward, but how we get there is going to be a big question. So.
Just add a comment from my experience in Tremont, because they passed their plan a year and a half ago, and we had a situation where there was a major development that was going to be done on a piece of property along the shoreline, and thank goodness somebody came in and bought it and so on. But what it raised, and I just bring this up to you, is there's a disparity between when you have a comprehensive plan that says, we want to grow, here's where we want to grow, here's what we want to protect, and so on. What you really need to do is look at your ordinances.
Yes.
Because what we found was that the developers could legitimately come in and put in 25 units and with 25 wells and all that kind of stuff, because the ordinance wouldn't. And this in Tremont, the planning board has pretty much ticked the boxes. And they were, but that's just something that to keep in mind with comprehensive plan. It's a guideline, it's not legal. It's a guideline, but what you really want to do is you want to get your planning board to say, we're in now we have to make our ordinances in sync with you.
And there have been, statewide developments in the last couple of years. And the town has actually already made some adjustments to existing ordinances to comply with that. So at this most recent town meeting in May, we approved changes, and it was largely based on density issues and whether you could, could every lot have an accessory dwelling unit or a second home, and what kinds of density bonuses do you do? So the town has actually already started working on it based on state requirements, but we need to tweak a lot of things on it.
And the comprehensive plan really is a foundation for the ordinances.
Right.
They're supposed to grow from that. So you take the guidance from where you're moving besides state regulations by what the town feels it wants. If you can.
And Kathy, I know as a committee, we've done a couple of things like distribute the survey, trying to get folks to fill out, those kinds of things. But, of course, as the comp planning process goes on, if there's any way that, or anything that the committee can do or should be doing or be involved, we'll keep that.
And I think that when we do set real dates for different events, that might be informative or as a place to gather information, we can distribute it to this committee and all the committees to make sure that people are, they know it's coming up, are engaged and to make it happen. So
I appreciate all, you're involved in a lot in the town and the comp plan is a really important thing. So yeah, I appreciate your.
my life.
Okay, there's been some business changes. Jordan, you want to talk about some of the new businesses?
Oh, sure, yeah. So over this winter, we actually lost by my count, 2 restaurants and 3 retail places. We gained back this spring a new restaurant. Artie's took the place of C Street, Seaside Deli on C Street. And May from Blue Hill opened a boutique, more of a pop-up, I would call it, probably for this season only. But I guess it might be TBD in where the Shack, I guess it was, used to be. And then also I know Kim Swan's doing a pop-up that's also, very limited, but, we're trying to support these new businesses. It's a struggle. We're going to see in the end of this season, we're going to lose a couple more. So this is not an easy way to make a living for some. So, but we're trying to do the best we can to promote the area. I know tourism can be a dirty word to some. But we are trying to do some things to be more out there. I did bring these and I'll pass them around, but we did a joint guide this year with the Acadia Chamber of Commerce over in Southwest Harbor that we are very proud of. That is a beautiful magazine that is strictly for this side of the island. I'm going to apply for an MOT grant this fall to market it more. But it's really, I think it's a beautiful piece. I hope you will take a look at it and hear them.
They're wonderful.
Really,
They're
super.
The other thing is we tried to do a co-op in Down East this year, which we try every year for the businesses to get a brief on it. And we do have I brought some of those as well. This month's issue does have a spread. 2-page spread. Tira at Gallery of Some Sound did a paid content spread. And then had 3 businesses that advertised, and we placed an ad just to discover the tranquil side of Mount Desert Island, come and explore Mount Desert. So
That's in Down East.
great. Yeah, so that's in this month's Down East. If anybody wants to take a look at that.
Artists that explore the tranquil side
Yeah.
as opposed to the quiet side.
Well, we had to actually, if you look at that publication on the cover, when we were working with the Acadia Chamber, we had a bit of a semantical issue because they said, well, we're the quiet side. So we rebranded the entire side with the tranquil side. So, anyway, and also I'm sure you all have seen this, but Travel and Leisure just named Mount Desert Island the #1 island destination in the continental US yesterday. So the Today Show had a feature this morning and there were some mainstream businesses that were on national television. So that's what we're up to.
Great, thanks.
Apologize for my cough. There's a cold going. I don't think it's contagious. I'd love it if it were, because then I could pass it on. Just.
So, the last couple of meetings, and we've touched on it earlier today, our focus has really been the idea of year-round revitalization, off-season, businesses and places to gather and whatnot. And so Jordan, again, you had a roundtable, and I think Vicky and Jim participating as well. Mind you, off that discussion with that.
I don't know what their perspective is. I will just say this is a very tough nut to crack. Just because I do think that actually Tyler Carroll from the Astaku general manager came to the event. I wanted him to come and let people hear him say that they plan to be open, because that's, something that people are really interested in. On the other hand, he can't tell them right now how many, you know, rooms he'll book or, you know, how many people are gonna show up. And, you know, the financial reality is that people can't kind of just, most people can't go out on a limb and, you know, hope that because the Astor is open, that they'll have enough business. It was also really interesting to hear even Nancy, when Wilds was talking about it, some of them, it's, you know, the spaces are hard to open all of in the winter because it's so expensive. So, you know, attended and he was clear in his space. It's too much space. It takes too much heat, too much people to, even if the Astor were open, I did not get the impression that he feels that that could be viable. And that's why he's been looking for a smaller space over time to see if he could do that. So, I'll let you chime in. Also, I'd say it was a productive discussion. There are a lot of challenges, and I think the next thing to do is people are interested in like September to hear from Tyler at the Astiku, and I'll get him back. How many rooms do you have booked? I will say the other thing they're very interested in is this whole Christmas festival thing. So that's only one weekend, but that again is something they think will draw. But what did you guys think about it?
I was excited. I got the feeling he was committing to this year being open Friday through Sunday and with a small restaurant. And he talked about being open to community events happening there and reduced rates in rooms. So, and they have a whole marketing team for Atlantic Hospitality, and they want to market girls' weekends and other kinds of things. So they're interested in it. Their events that are going to go on. I was felt really hopeful about it.
There was discussion in the last couple of meetings about Astiku possibly having a little van or shuttle going back and forth. Is that likely to happen?
So I've talked to them about that now 3 times, and said, you know, have you been? I think one of the things, other than I guess Tim's probably driven through town, but most of these people, like with Atlantic Hospitality that I've been dealing with in Kennebunkport, they're brand new. Tyler, the manager, just came from Massachusetts. So when I say, you know, have you tried to park? You know, do you not? And so far I've gotten, well, they might have little cars or this or that. They don't really see it as a problem yet. I'm actually training their team next week on like what to do and things in the area. And I said, while you're there, we can talk about parking again, because so I've tried, I don't think I alone am gonna convince anyone. They don't seem like they think it's an issue. I think they may discover it. Right now, they have no plans. They're thinking of like little gem car, what are those little cars? Or they don't have concrete. And quite frankly, I think they've been so focused on just trying to get the shrubbery in.
When are they expected to?
The 17th.
Okay.
I think to me, the attraction to them should be a tremendous marketing opportunity. If they have a little van with Astiku on it and it's attractive, and it comes through the marina and it picks up cruisers and it takes them up to Main Street, or it takes them up.
They have to go down.
And vice versa, the Astiku guests can come down. And my feeling is, if the driver can handle it, obviously guests are their first priority, but if there's somebody else who wants a lift, what a great way to be a good community.
I totally agree, and yeah. It may take somebody, you know, whispering in Tim Harrington's ear to cocktail.
Well, you know, actually, Astiku used to just bring people to town. I mean, somebody would say they needed a lift to town and they needed to pick up.
Yeah, and I know they are working on some ideas, but the shuttle so far, when I brought it up, didn't seem to be in their plans. But again, I don't think they do it based on my recommendation.
So did we look to town or the village at some point to help with support for that? I think I'm going back a year or two.
More than a year or two.
My fault.
No, I think that there was some talk about it, and we actually had a presentation by somebody who thought it would be a good idea to have a shuttle. My own feeling is I wouldn't lead with parking.
But that's a good point.
I'd lead with the fact, this is a terrific marketing
That's a
opportunity
great point.
and a community opportunity.
It was insurance that nobody could ever hold.
Yeah, we thought about a golf cart kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
We were looking at connecting the
The harbor,
marina to
yeah.
the Main
Yeah,
Street
right,
more
right.
than anything else.
But it was, as I recall, it was the one concept was to have something, a shuttle just going around, people can get on and off, kids could get on.
Mhm.
And the far point would be the golf club, go swinging through, and yeah, there's people like the idea, but then I think it went on the rocks with insurance, as I recall.
Yeah, I do think once they open, maybe it'll be easier for them to look
Yeah.
into some of these other things.
Yeah, and see what their guests are
Yeah.
trying to do or.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the demographic of these guests that are coming in? Are they doing? Well, I would imagine we do also like cross-selling between all of his properties, right? So
Yeah.
get you from here to there.
I think a real opportunity for them are cruisers. People have been out in the water for a while. They obviously have, they're in a wealth category that they can afford going to a nice restaurant at the Asticou. You got a shuttle to pick them up?
I think go over to the Astor.
I was thinking they tend to go to the Astor.
Go to the Astor.
Yeah. I would say if you, if
Maybe
you're,
dredge that first, yeah.
it's one thing if you're on a mooring and you have your own tender and you can go
Is
to.
that, is that staffed?
What's that?
Is that staffed, the landing?
No, but it's short
The
there.
boat- the boat can-
I think they have a sign that it's a 1 hour.
I mean, I guess this summary, if they, I think it was interesting that they're open. I will say no one else is really signed up necessarily just because of that to throw open their doors because there are challenges. And so we need to, if we're gonna meet again, once they're open and they have some idea of what their bookings are, I think if they said, well, gee, we're booked every weekend between, that's a different.
I mean, and if he wanted to, I felt the inclination to maybe come to the October meeting and like chat. That would be interesting.
Our October meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that would be interesting. So I know, this idea of year-round community, we've talked a lot about building on the great success of those like sip, what were they called? The sip and socializing events that happened over the winter. I think at the last meeting in reviewing the minutes, there was talk about trying to identify some other spots where those could occur. So, it's not fully on the neighborhood house. You mentioned they would be interested in possibly community events. Would the Astor maybe interested? in
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah. Is there any location that we should be thinking about in like Solmesville or somewhere outside of Northeast Harbor, just to be a bit more inclusive? Yeah.
I mean, Tierra Hanson's gallery is amazing. In Solmesville, and she has room, and she'd be interested in having all these people.
Yeah.
I think the library. Back to North, yeah.
Yeah.
They've been doing a really good job about trying to do different
Yeah.
things, especially
They're looking into doing more, so I think that would be perfect.
Can I do a quick update about Browns because I just met with them half an hour ago? They are closing this fall. They're going to be having a big sale on everything. And they are entertaining proposals from other people to come in there. And I'm one of them. And
To come there for the space, not to necessarily operate at hardware store,
not to-
but
but
for the space.
there might be opportunity for them to.
We take the whole space.
Yes, they want to get, that's one thing, they want somebody to take the whole space, they don't want to subdivide it. They don't want to do $500,000 of restaurant duct work or anything like that. Because I'm already over year round, my concept is a part on the left being pop-up space. someplace that we could do craft fairs, some Sunday farmers markets, all that kind of stuff. And it maybe even some spaces where other people could come in and do stuff similar to an antique food area. I picture a big table for classes and that kind of stuff. And I don't know if they're gonna say yes, but they seem pretty psyched. I think it also is so exciting. Maybe. I mean, it's really fun to think about. I mean, Kathy might remember that I've been talking with 365 since 2017 about doing something similar and this can be better. So but that's one thing that could happen for year-round stuff.
Yes.
Great.
So Jen, the right-hand side would be your shop.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's perfect because it's
Yeah.
the steps.
Wonderful.
Backstop
Yeah.
shipping.
Oh,
And I think they're also part of their decision because they're so overloaded is that they don't have to do a lot of work to make it useful for somebody else.
So they're not selling the building.
Nope. And I found out today, good news, they're paying all the utilities except internet, because it's not separated right now.
Oh,
And I was really worried about
So they'll keep the rentals and all that.
that.
Yeah.
They don't want to rent out the basement or any of that, but it's just the.
That's wonderful.
I heard that they might be interested in the back buildings being housing.
I think so. Yeah.
There's already housing back there.
There's at least one apartment back
Yeah.
there.
There's more apartment than the apartments.
I feel like whatever they pick, they're putting a lot of thought and intention into it, and they want somebody who's year round. Yeah. And that just feels the vibe of the town, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's
That's
my
great
opinion.
news.
Really good.
Would you still operate, that shop as well?
No, I would move it.
Yeah.
Wow. They own my building, so they may do something cool in there again.
Yeah.
I don't think they want to do anything next year. Yeah.
Used to be a bakery for a while.
That's a lot of things.
Yes,
I'm
and
like,
ice cream.
Yeah. And I'm like, I've been here 9 years. You know, it doesn't, it's been a while. It's like, yeah.
Little Notch was there for a
Yeah.
while.
Just one other thing.
It just joined.
Was it ice cream? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Coffee.
Yeah, it was, it's Captain Lou, but it was, Elliot Cohen's son, Howie Cohen
Yeah.
ran that. It was, and you get sandwiches there too.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
We've outgrown it, so.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna be mad if they pick somebody else, but I'm just.
I am.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't
She said they have 4, that makes sense, and then a lot of other interest that doesn't make sense, so. It's gonna be what it is.
You have an idea as to their time frame for making a
I think
decision?
they said 2 weeks or so.
That's it.
Yeah, they first started talking to me about it in February, and then their life got really busy with a lot of things. so.
Wow.
Oh my God, we'll talk about actually making a significant step towards a year-round something that would be amazing.
It's been, this idea has been on my mind.
Could we help?
9 years.
Yes, what can we do?
No, I mean, I think you guys could help with just talking it up and
Yeah.
maybe if anybody has any strategy of taking other people's micro businesses in. There's some really great success stories that I'm sort of basing that concept on. But I think it would help you pay the rent a little bit to have some of those things happen.
Is this something the Economic Development Corporation could be involved with?
I think it's
If
possible.
we
Yeah.
awaken the beast?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to share it with you. I haven't shared it with anybody out in the public, but yeah, that would be great if you want to talk about it.
We start to get money. Grant of some kind.
Yes, there are grants, there are tourism, there are grants in the state that would do that. And that's sort of where even back to the conversation with these people who can't keep their building or, need some seed money for a season to try to be open. There are towns that are doing things like that.
Thought some of the other retail shops could grab one of those things and put like their best sellers in there, if they wanted to.
Just a thought as to action plan. We'd have to look at how we resurrect the EDC, but if you could combine whatever our structural capability is with, let's say, going to the Summer Resident Association, saying, here's a way to really
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
Well, and it's more scripted than just handing,
Like we talked about before. Yeah, exactly.
it's got a structure.
Yeah.
So Georgia, and are these grants, do you know, are they aimed at projects or could the corporation raise a fund?
I just started looking into this, so I don't want to speak out of turn.
Talk to you,
It's just,
tell me.
it occurred to me when we were hearing this, kind of, we have this chicken and the egg problem, and I read about another community that was doing something similar, so I would need to look into it some more before I stuff my foot in my mouth, but I do think there is some money out there, or there was. Now, who knows? The world is a changing place.
One thing I think might be a challenge is all the people that, like, where's the hardware store? This is terrible. So I feel like the committee could be helpful in messaging that this is a business that they chose to be in there for the reasons year round and a gathering spot.
Maybe you could have a few hammers.
I was
Well, that's what you use when they don't pay.
Well, with,
The white building in the back.
They said they weren't planning to rent any of that out.
Is that could be a mini parlors.
so I was just gonna say, there's something I talked to Tom about, and he didn't seem to particularly interested in, but, True Value's got a website.
Yeah.
And they need to deliver it someplace.
Yeah.
So if you had just like a pickup place,
Yeah.
that you could have the stuff dropped,
That's-
that's something that people would use, and, so that's something but I don't think there's a huge amount of money in it, which is probably why Tom wasn't interested, but it gets traffic.
Yeah, definitely.
There's another thought, which I thought made all sense in the world a while ago, which was we haven't had a cleaners in Northeast Harbor for 10+ years. And I assume, particularly in the summer, there are a lot of people who look to clean it.
Yeah.
And the idea was then to go to the little gas station. Does that have a name? No.
The gas station.
Yeah.
Variety.
Oh, it's called, yeah.
Yeah, it's Ben's, yeah.
We suggested that they could be a pickup place for the cleaners in Ellsworth. People in Northeast Harbor could just drop their stuff there. And they could charge a rental fee to the cleaners. The cleaners could come up, pick things up, bring them back, and it'd just be space. Yeah,
It could be something that makes sense.
Yeah. It's a real supply and demand there.
Yeah, there is.
But the bike shop does, they have
They
a
do.
clean.
Laundry.
Laundry.
She's laundry.
Just one.
Shirts, clothes, yeah.
It's because they're so dirty themselves after oiling the bikes.
No, they really spend.
Yeah, she's going gangbusters. Oh, great. Since she got on e-bikes, she started a second business.
So what I'm hearing is that it would be helpful for us to look into exactly what it would take, what it would involve to revitalize the EDC, what role that could play in something like, not just your business, but anybody doing this kind of thing. Look into different kinds of grants that might be useful, and sort of keep an ear out about, what the ASTICU is thinking or sort of projecting for the winter and what it's.
Yeah, we'll have that nailed down, like October is almost too late.
Yeah.
People need to make a decision before that, so we'll hammer on that again probably in early September.
Georgia, do I hear a volunteer over there to be?
Yeah, I'll be glad to get to show up with more more information that I sound more intelligent than I do right now.
You're totally fine. You're totally fine. So I'm gonna say that you're gonna focus on the grants.
I'll do some research.
Okay, fantastic. And I'll work with Carrie. We'll probably be reaching out to some of the old timers who are also on the EDC, just to maybe confirm our understanding, going through some of the EDC documents about who's on it, who's involved, if we need to make changes, or if you want to step off. Or whatever. And we can,
Dan McKay may be.
Dan McKay would be.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah. He's very responsive to his email, which is very helpful.
I still have the bank account still pops up on
Oh, okay.
For the EDC or the CDC?
CD,
Your
CD, it's not.
Well, you're president.
That's right. But it was very inactive for a very long time.
This is, you may know about this, but, the 1, 2, 3 during the winter, I mean, they've got a sign saying coming soon, and I'm not sure, it has a wolf on, I'm not sure what's going.
Yeah.
But, is that a kind of space that is Adam from Nor'easter could use in the winter if he wants a smaller space? Could he use something like 1, 2, 3? And is it otherwise?
Because that's
occupied?
mod, right? That's mod.
Is it?
It is.
I hesitate to say too much public. I mean, I think he tried and he was too late.
I see, I see. So something else is happening in there in the
Yeah,
winter?
The bond from the small market is gonna use it.
In the winter.
Right now, I think she
Not in the winter, but
Not gonna do it.
No.
Because in the winter, there it is.
Yeah.
There Adam is without a small place. So I'm just, I don't know.
And the boys are very interested in having that
Yes,
building used.
yes, they
Yeah.
are.
The whole purpose of that building was to be a year round.
It's right.
that was one of the things we tried, they were both at this meeting we had.
Yeah, we
So
tried to get that out.
Okay.
I think that needs more of an offline conversation with them than this was in a group. And so it's a great point.
So has the home store sold?
No, there's looking.
No, she's.
But Adam owns that building.
Yes, she's selling the business.
She's selling the business, but she doesn't sell the business.
I think it's
Oh,
the same.
Then he could convert that is what you're saying into.
Well, it's still a problematic heating space.
Yeah.
It holds it later, but you could do something creative to tent it in. It's a smaller space than the shore. And it's my understanding he owns that building. She owns the business.
Right.
But if she doesn't sell the
Business
business,
and that be a space.
I think it's a similar issue to what Brown says, like restaurants have approached them that it's really expensive, but in all to make it safe. It's not doable for most.
Which to your point, that's why that's why you like it has.
I think she's gonna go into later fall next year.
She had said she was gonna open in the spring. What's the sign on the window say?
It's just, my understanding is she planned to go maybe till the Christmas festival, which is great.
Oh, say, oh.
Yeah.
There's also a space, which is very unusual space. I had a tour of it not that long ago, of the Masonic Hall,
Yes.
which I think is also part of that.
So where's that?
no, it's the other, that building splits there in really unusual ways. The post office and the Masonic Hall.
It's a really fancy
And
building.
then the home store and the apartments above that.
The Masonic halls in.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just above the post office.
The building.
I had no idea.
The building wasn't sold as one building.
No.
It's two things. Son-in-law.
Yeah.
The symbol.
The emblem of it.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
As an aside, when they closed that hole, they came around, they had a lot of money that they, so Chuck Buckland came over and handed me a check for $50,000 for the nursery school, and I did the same for several profits in town, neighborhood house. Yeah.
But it's a lot of space. And I thought it was the same ownership as the Nor'easter.
Kim Swan owns it.
Oh, that's right. Kim
And
Swan. I did.
their grandfathering fire.
Oh,
issues.
I mean, it would be really interesting to have a space that different chefs or restaurants could use every one week, each take a weekend or whatever and do something throughout the winter. If we could figure that out. I'm just.
yeah, idea.
Yeah.
They did that at the Atlantic Brewing for the first couple of years.
Yeah.
Wow, when they don't do it anymore.
You mentioned there being interest, I think you said it was from Cheyenne, he asked you about really trying to hype up the Christmas festival. You mentioned maybe with the skating rink, trying to do like a first Friday or like every
I was trying.
Yeah, okay, so that's sort of where it is right now, is sort of.
Well, and just, again, people weren't ready to say, sure, I'll be open on Friday nights. Is the skating rink gonna open? When's it gonna open? How many people? They have a lot of questions that I can't answer right now. But it's only July. We're not giving up.
He's on the thin line. so-
That's our jam. So
Yeah, he's-
And if you have a bigger space,
Yeah.
more
we'll
people.
gather.
Yes, yeah,
Mm.
shop is a major attraction in general, but especially for an event like that.
That'd be fun.
Okay, well, that's exciting. I feel like that's potentially some very exciting and interesting news. Georgianne, grants and stuff, Carrie and I will look into the resurrecting the EDC. We'll keep our fingers crossed for you, Jen, and whatever does,
Thank
move in there, I'm trying to be so what we can. But we're rooting for you.
I think they're trying to be really mindful of it. So whatever they choose is great.
They're very thoughtful people in general, so I think. Sense. Okay, so just a couple of things of just quickly new things. We already hit on the Astaku shuttle, and that's sort of a TBD. They can get up and running.
I'm happy for someone else to give it a go. And I'll try your suggestion.
Yeah.
Do you think there's enough business for someone to run that as a small business and not be the execute? Like someone to just like rent a gem car this season? and-
Yeah. Go back to-
Rigs- I mean, kind of, like if you're really talking about something that's bigger than the Astatue,
Right.
if someone knew that that shuttle was active a certain number of hours every day. Maybe that's an economic development thing, like say. The business plan look like, is that even possible? Could it make enough money off tips and short rides?
Do we have anybody in town who is experienced in running that kind of business that used to run a taxi firm or a shuttle firm or has?
Oh, I do in Everett, kind of, and make good call.
Right.
Just have you text and.
Yeah.
That might be better rather than having somebody just go around.
Yeah.
If they could pick you up after a meal. Breaking them.
Yeah, it'd be really inexpensive and they would just have one, in theory, constant traffic,
Right.
constant use.
Is there room for anybody? No, it's right.
On the island if they don't come.
Oh,
Very quickly.
Be in 45 minutes.
I think that was called marketing. We're talking about community and so on. What if we created the term neighbor, NEHBOR?
Right.
The neighbor.
Neighbor cough.
NEHBA.
Any cars that would come out of the antique or museum space, the
Yeah.
kind of unique, like a little unique
Yeah.
way to travel in style.
I think that's what they have at the Claremont. They've got that old station. there.
Yeah.
That they do drive people.
So maybe a combination or a conversation with the Seal Cove Auto Museum.
Yeah.
It could be advertising for that.
Yeah, totally.
He's a member of your.
Yeah, I don't know if he has any cars that go that far.
What do you do? They drove it down to Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're so sorry. I'm gonna. Yes. Thanks for being supportive.
Hi,
Jen.
Yeah, good luck.
Yes. What are we gonna do about gems like Neva? If you think of that, they'll have to email us. I said this idea.
I'll send you my charge for
Okay.
release.
We're doing really good on time. The one other thing I wanted to make sure to touch on, Georgianne, you mentioned, how beneficial it might be, and this sort of ties into some of what we're talking about anyway, to have more visitor info, sort of a calendar, accessible from the town's website or more obviously linked.
Yeah, so I sent you and Carrie a few examples of other towns that when you Google the town and it comes up and you go to the page, there's like a calendar of events or a link to a calendar of events. And when we get back to this notion of coordinating the skating rinks open and, you know, all these things are, when library has all these things, we have those, if people submit them, like the library, all their things are on our calendar. and I have no horse in this race, so it doesn't necessarily have to be our calendar, but some like even a visit us link or a calendar link or something that's kind of one repository as we look at trying to, again, make comprehensive events and things going on. It's really piecemeal on Instagram and 16 different calendars of nonprofits or whatever to figure out, well, and so there are quite a few towns, and I had some examples I sent her, I can share with the rest of the group that, there's a button on the town web homepage that says like, visit us or community calendar, and that could link. Certainly could link to our calendar if we started putting more things on it, or someone else could do it. Have you talked to Claire about that? When I talked to Derlin, he said I'd have to go to the select board, and I personally don't think it's my place necessarily to go to the select board, because I think this is more kind of a community economic development question, if you all think it's a good idea.
Somebody from this committee could come to the select board and we could discuss it. I don't see why there would be an objection. I think the only objection would be if the office was tasked with compiling the information. They would need somebody feeding them, or have a link that they could go to that'd be easy.
Well, and it could even link, if you go on the town website now, there's a thing called resources, and it has this list of all the different things, and one of them is, I think ND 365's on there, Kathy, aren't you? And then the chamber, and so you can click through all that and you can get to our calendar. And again, I'd be happy for the town just to link to our calendar. Some more visible thing that somebody coming into town can go see other than meetings. There's a calendar of like things going on here that you can plan your weekend in the winter.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Is that
But the chamber has it.
We do have a calendar, and again, I'd be happy to link to it. I just don't want to seem self-serving.
No, because you have a calendar on your website.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our members can load information to it, and we have non-members. And if you looked at it today, everything at the library is on there. They always send their stuff. We would have to work more diligently to go try to find, we'd have to make sure we had found everything, but I guess I'm throwing out first as a question if people think it sounds useful.
I think it's just
Yeah.
business hours, restaurant hours, what's open.
Yeah.
It's terrific.
Yeah.
So Carrie Jones is trying to do that.
Yeah, does that, yeah.
Yes.
Two bar harbor stores.
Okay.
Comprehensive versus this, but
It's comprehensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goes on forever.
that's the problem.
Knows to look for that.
Right.
I'm thinking more of when people Google,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna go to Mount Desert, and that's what's gonna come up.
I mean, I totally do that. If we want to go somewhere, I Google the town and then I look there for a
Right,
place that sends me to that. So it makes total sense. For that link, is there a question about
Well, I think
how
we
that
have
link has to
just-
get put on on the town's
Yeah,
website? Is that
does
the
she
question?
maintain the town website? Claire? Yeah,
Bring it to the board of selectmen and we can discuss it there, I think.
Because you're saying the chamber has a calendar of events.
we do, and
So-
right now we're kind of buried. You could even, because we have a visit page, so you could, in theory, you could have a visit button that linked to the page in the calendar, or if the town and the select board wanted to have their own thing, they could do that.
I would think they'd want to have a button that links to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they're all, and then nobody has to do any work.
Right, because what they're not gonna be crazy about is compiling the information.
Right, and they would have to.
I'd be fine with that. I just didn't feel like it was necessarily appropriate for me to show up and say, well, I think you should do this, because
Well-
it does seem a little.
But it's changed your thinking about that.
Yeah.
Since one of the goals of town's comprehensive plan is year-round economic development,
Yeah.
this is actually doing a service to the town,
It
about
is.
helping to fulfill that.
Yeah.
But
It's not self-serving.
can you compile all the information by
Sorry.
yourself?
I mean, we already have on
Most
the
of it, right?
calendar a lot of things.
Yeah.
We would more, if we were gonna do this, we would more go proactively hunt down things to put on it. Right now, we have a link on our website that people can just input. And as I said, the library guy sent all his stuff. And the hospital, and there are a lot of places that do, there are things going on that they don't. That we would, if we went this road, we would commit to, you know, we'd have to be more going and looking to make sure we had it.
And you could do that.
I think we could do that.
So who wants to bell the cat? You don't know that story? The mice had a meeting because the cat was, it's an Aesop's fable, I think. The cat was terrorizing the mice. So the mice had a meeting, what they could do about the cat. And one of the mice said, I got a great idea. We'll put a bell on the cat. And then when the cat comes along, we'll all hear it. We'll run. So the old wise mouse said, who's gonna bell the cat?
This isn't, sounds so hard. This is really hard, like, me?
Yeah, I'll,
Okay.
yeah, I'll do it.
Get on the agenda.
I'll talk to Claire.
Right, yeah, I'm happy for us to go together.
Okay.
And I'm ashamed I didn't know I have to self-populate my events on a.
We obviously have once.
So scary.
She is very supportive. Not everyone understands what we do. So I do think it would be helpful if someone else came along from an economic.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah, I can make
Yeah.
the ask and then you can talk about what you already have and then,
Discuss how it would work and
Yeah.
give you examples of other towns doing it.
yeah,
The big seller's gonna be, it's not gonna be a lot of extra work.
yeah, just make a file.
Cost money.
It'll cost money.
Yeah, it doesn't cost money.
And George, from a political perspective, you know, the chamber comes up in the warrant committee meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here, so this would be a very good.
Yeah, look at the services we
Yes.
provide.
Right, there you go.
Yeah,
You know, I haven't always had somebody as anxious to do it as you have, as you are.
I think it's great.
But I mean, if this is about, we gotta.
It's great.
We have to deserve it
No,
to
it's
promote
great.
these businesses.
Yeah. Yeah, and if Jen is gonna be able to start having classes or do anything like that.
Speaking of links, just as an FYI, I think this is wonderful. The MDI Historical Society is literally testing a mobile app. And you can just put it on your cell phone. And right now, I think in the test, there are 20 different spots. And you can click on it. And let's say you click on Bar Harbor. Well, there'll be several, one will say Gilded Age, and then there'll be a whole series of information about the Gilded Age. Or you could click on Southwest Harbor, and there'd be some things about the canneries. It would be all historical. But the whole point is, as people go to various spots on the island, and they just stop, they look and say, well, what do I have here? I'm here. And you can open it up and you could learn something historic.
It's very.
That's very cool.
They did a great job with it.
It exists.
It exists in
Yeah.
testing, but I think it's literally, they're going through the final beta tests.
When are you moving into town?
Oh, that's what, don't go there. We got a long ways to go.
But do you have to tell it where you are, or does it know where you
That's a good question. I don't know. It's always pretty simple because you look at, there's the map, there's the island, and there are little pinpoints, and you
Right.
just decide which pinpoint you're closest to.
Well, because not that many years ago, I went out to, what's the Yellowstone, and there's an app that literally you play it through your car and it tells you what you're seeing as you're driving. It knows where you are based on your,
Yeah.
But your phone has your location.
right, which virtually every phone at this point does. And you actually, I mean, you literally, it's like a guided tour. And it says, if you got time, take a left here and here's a nice waterfall. If you don't have time, you might want to skip this one. And was amazing. And we've used it, that's all we did for 4 days. Because we used this thing to fill the tours around. And it sounds like that's something, you know, that kind of technology is readily available. And you should be, when you drive into Southwest Harbor, it should pop up.
Yeah.
Right on your phone instead of, you shouldn't have to click something on there.
Is Arcadia looking at that?
Well, there is something, I keep getting pinged by somebody on something I read that says that there is an Acadia National Park version of that. So it's based on the national parks.
That's
So it
right.
wasn't like the town of Jackson Hole. It was,
Right.
it
no.
was, you know, the Teton or Yellowstone. But I haven't done it just because I kind of know the park, but it would be interesting. I should, download it because something like that is really, we got addicted to it like that. And that's all we did for 4 days in Jackson Hole was we were like, okay, where does, it was called Gypsy. And it's like, where does Gypsy say we should go? And that's what we did. And it was great. We had a blast.
So this could be on
Yeah.
this could be on the website. This could be on-
Well, you could
Download the
download the app.
Yeah,
Yeah.
little history app.
Yeah,
Right.
We have, I just a small plug, the Bar Harbor Historical Society still has grant money this season for our live and analog 3-minute historian. Who, if you have an event or want them to show up, will show up across the island and harangue people with 3-minute bits of history from wherever they are on the island. So if you haven't been to the local 3-minute historians pop up, please let me know. That's funded through the Maine Foundation. It was some grant money that we got to bring history out into the streets, so where people are waiting or hanging out or at a market or a fair. And so we have a great new person this year who is out there doing that.
And how long is that going to be available?
So I run out.
Till the grant money gets out.
Oh, we make it through August.
So it could be fun if we do some gatherings.
Oh,
and then
totally.
there's-
Yeah, I mean, if we have,
The demo.
continue funding her salary, we can keep her going. Now she's just become a gigantic learning bank, right? She has all these tidbits, so.
There is a lot going on. It's very exciting. Okay, I think we've reached the end of the agenda anyway. As a reminder, for folks who are still on the committee, the next meeting will be Wednesday, October 8th. But I will follow up, probably tomorrow, sort of a high level summary of some of the to-dos and whatnot. And if you have any issues with your paperwork or anything, and if at any point you want to just chat with me and Carrie, happy to do that. And if anyone knows of anyone who can come onto the committee to fill some of the vacant spots, or maybe let Jamie right off into the sun, let us know.
Megan, I have two short announcements. One is, Derwin, as you know, is retiring. We're gonna do a retirement party for him. Friday, August 22nd, from 4 to 6 at the neighborhood dance.
So
And,
what time?
4 to 6 neighborhood house,
August 26th?
August 22nd,
Second.
Friday. And on July 22nd at 5:30, I'm launching a new novel at the Northeast Harbor Library.
It's on the community calendar on our website.
Thank you.
see another example. Oh, awesome.
What time? 5:30.
30.
Our library does things that are very.
It's like high.
Yeah.
August. August.
You missed out the last meeting.
Oh, my God. Only fun standing out all this stuff.
Never gonna like.
Join the committee.
I was gonna say, you could join the committee. What's your problem?
Bring some youth to life.
Yeah.
Megan, as a parting gift, I'm gonna.
You got it. Thank you.
Something I just uncovered was, but these are some of the renderings of when we were talking about a promenade park.
Oh.
Look at those. Look at those.
That's sort of historical society.
Well, now it's called archival.
I've heard so much about this park and the possibility of it. I've never seen any of this.
Well, there it is.
Of the building.
Fire station.
Really, we lost the.
But he did not get this, you want it.
If you know Zach at the library,
I could probably point him out, but I don't know him.
COA, Fred. Really be a
What's on?
interesting person for this committee.
Okay.
That'd be great.
He's terrific.
What is it?
Yeah, he lives in Northeast Harbor. I know it's Northeast Harbor heavy, but so what?
Yeah.
Young,
I know there's a-
and he's smart.
Yeah. that's-
The library, like I said, the library is doing so many cool
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Having their
He
perspective.
might, if he has the time, but we might talk to him.
Oh, yeah, I'll reach out. That was a great suggestion. Awesome.
Father of food.
Excited. I feel like some
What
of our
is this here? You
meetings are
said-
hour and
you mentioned
then
what is
it's
it?
like,
When you start this-
Is that in?
Yes, oh, yeah.
It's-
It's- yeah.
Oh, don't you remember?
I just voted for good.
Smart.
You know where you're going, you're not.
It's gonna be having guys here, but they're, you know.
I had to do like Karen leaving, covering over you. Quite so right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I'll copy all the.
You're not. We might. Just be doing it. I might help you up. I know. And we. I do not like.
It'll go to the select board, they'll review and then they'll get an email and, yeah. You did.
Good on
Yeah,
mine.
you're all good.
I've been looking at.
Because I actually brought stuff there, I was like, oh.
There is.